Dear Satyajit, I'm taking you up on your offer and writing you this letter. I've decided on writing it by hand. It allows me to think a little bit more before I transcribe something. It's been a while since I've physically written a letter, and to be completely honest, I'm not sure what to write you. I suppose I could tell you about my day, but I'm not sure how rewarding that would be for either of us. I'll only impose one rule on myself in these letters. I will only take one side of one page. This will motivate me to find enough to write so that these letters are worthwhile, while also limiting myself so that I don't get too carried away. I looked up your address prior to this letter. Can you tell me more about where you're from? I've never been to India. Not out of apathy. Rather, I'm unable to find the funds. I'm sure I'll visit at some point. In the interim, your descriptions will more than suffice. I'm from Damascus, Virginia, a small town nestled in the Appalachian Mountains. For many, this town is just a rest stop along a long hiking trail called the Appalachian Trail. Any part of the Appalachian Trail is breathtaking and worth seeing. It spans over 2,000 miles, starting way northeast in Maine and then extending all the way down to Georgia. And would you believe me if I told you people hike the entire thing? I haven't, but I've talked to enough of the passers-by to feel like I have. I can relay to you all the stories I've heard with such vividness that you'd believe that they were mine. Sometimes I pretend they are my experiences. It can make otherwise mundane interactions a little bit more exciting. And what harm is there in telling a story I've heard to a stranger who I'll likely not see again? They seem to appreciate it. I'm nearing the end of the page. I wish you well and hope this letter finds you. I look forward to reading your stories. Sincerely, Daniel.
Dear Daniel, I have received your letter, and it has made my day. You should see the light it has brought to my otherwise dim afternoon. The Appalachian Mountains sound beautiful. Could you tell me a story from one of the many hikers you have encountered? I will treat it as if I'm hearing one of your own personal stories. Your secret is safe with me. You asked about where I'm from. I'm afraid there isn't much to say about it, at least from my perspective. I've lived here my entire life, and so I struggle at identifying what it is that makes it unique. Yet, I will try. As you know, I am from Ladwa in northern India. I live near a bazaar that sells many things from clothing to electronics. I go there for clothes occasionally, but not for electronics. They don't really serve much purpose for me. The main road that divides Ladwa is Bilaspur from east to west. It is a busy road that helps me appreciate my driving inabilities. I would never wish to drive here. My primary mode of transit is by bicycle. I use it to get to the temple or the grain market. Now there's a sight you would appreciate: the grain market. There, people with their trucks spend their day loading and unloading countless bags of grain. Occasionally, I go there to see how many bags I can count. I once counted up to 1,236. Ladwa is like many other towns. The people that live here know it well, and we take pride in our accomplishments. Daniel, I'm sorry if that description doesn't help in visualizing Ladwa. I will look more keenly at it and see if in future letters I can be more vivid. So far, I have a wonderful image of Damascus in my head. If I may ask, do you have a road like ours? Or a grain market? How long have you lived there? I value your goal of containing your letter to the length of a page. I shall do the same. I am approaching that limit and wish you all the best. With gratitude, Satyajit.
Satyajit, thank you for your response. I was unsure whether you would reply. I'm happy to hear my letter brightened your day, as did yours. I'll begin this letter by telling you one of my many stories from the trail. When I hike, it's often alone, but on this day I went with a friend who lives down the road from me. His name is Christian. We decided on a day hike. Waking up well before dawn, we set out. We had everything we needed, proper shoes, water, maps, everything, except food. The thought of bringing food completely escaped us, and we hadn't realized this until 8 hours into the day. It was our growling stomachs that alerted us of this error. At this point we sat, sunk in the blistering heat and miles away from any practical food source. In reality, I was nervous. I was on the precipice of consciousness, yet Christian was pacing as I just sat there drifting. At first, I thought it was best he conserve his energy and sit with me, but he was actually in the right. Rather than partially surrendering like me, he was pursuing food. He was chasing after a rabbit that would continually elude his grasp. Rabbits are so poised. At one point, it hopped to within a foot of me, within my reach. It just looked at me, and I looked at it. I wanted to grab it, and I could have, but I had no energy. And just then, Christian caught it. We started a fire, cooked it, ate it, and then headed home. Your description of Logwood was more than sufficient. I can imagine it now. We do have a road like yours. It is called East Laurel Avenue. It's named after the river that divides the town. We don't have a grain market, but we have a big supermarket called Food City. It's not an actual city, just a store to buy food. You mentioned a temple. What kind of temple is it? We have a couple of religious buildings here, but we call them churches. Do you have any trips planned for the year? Hope you're well, Daniel.
Daniel, what a wonderful tale. It's as though in that moment, the rabbit represented more than just food. It's great that you had Christian there to catch it. The temple I was referring to is a Hindu temple. Hinduism is the primary religion here. But you can also find Islamic mosques here too. Are you familiar with Hinduism at all? I was raised Hindu, and I don't protest it much. It brings me closer to my community. It also has produced some beautiful artwork and fantastic stories that I let guide me. What kind of churches do you have there? I would like to visit the Valley of Flowers in the Himalayas. I've seen pictures of the numerous flowers that bloom there. I really think it would be a worthwhile trip. It's a 12-hour drive, but I can't drive. I've entertained the idea of cycling there. I estimate it would take me a month. But I don't know if I would survive cycling the Himalayas. It could be that I just learn how to drive. something to work towards. I have been trying to pay more attention throughout my day so that I could tell you a more compelling story about Ladwa. Yesterday, I went to the market. It's crammed down a congested corridor surrounded by small buildings. It feels as if from any direction you could find an alley with 1,000 lives within it. While there, I heard someone yelling, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. Next thing I know, a motorbike arrives. One of the men jumped on and drove off into the sea of other vehicles. I still don't know what the incident was about, but people carried on with what they were doing. No one was hurt, but a man has been standing on a ledge near the shop, preaching about how they must install cameras to prevent this from happening again. May your day be bright. Satyajit.
Satyajit, to be completely honest, I know nothing of Hinduism. Is it in any way related to Buddhism? I hope that doesn't come off wrong. I've never come across it, but I'm aware that it is a religion. Could you tell me about it? These churches are Christian. One is Methodist, another is Baptist, and I think there are a few more. My parents are Methodist, but I don't attend, nor do I practice. I find religion in general peculiar. There are too many ironies for me to follow. However, I will say some of the nicest people I've met work for the church, so it's nothing against the people. I could go on, but I'll save you from my rantings. I was going to say we have more than enough bike shops here. Sometimes when I'm bored, I go to one where I know the owner. He lets me borrow any bike I want as long as I bring it back the way I got it. Some days I ride into the mountains, and it's exhausting. If you do try biking to the Valley of Flowers, I'd recommend checking your suspension and brakes thoroughly beforehand. One little hitch could ruin your whole trip. Thank you for that description of the incident at the market. I wonder what the cause of all that commotion was. Things like that happen over here as well. Just the other day, a guy broke into the public library after it was closed. Everything turned out okay. He told the police he just wanted to sleep near to the books, that they gave him comfort. If that's the case, I would have just let him stay. It's hard enough to find innocuous comforts, let alone someone who'd want to break into a library. Respectfully, Daniel.
Daniel, don't worry. I know your questions come from a sincere place. Hinduism is different from Buddhism, but both began in what is now considered India. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you too much about how they compare, since I'm not that versed in Buddhism either. All I know is that Buddhism started a long time ago by a man named Siddhartha Gautama. He was of a Hindu family. Hindus believe in a litany of gods, one for every occasion. There is an ancient text called the Mahabharata that I would recommend if you're interested in learning more. It's lengthy, but I'm sure you could find a shortened version that conveys its importance. What I love most about this story is that it describes an array of gods partaking in the same mischievous, jealous and carnal actions that we all find ourselves tempted by. It is somewhat assuring that our gods felt this too. I agree with you that religion is riddled with irony. I would appreciate your rantings if you are so compelled. The greatest irony that I will not participate in is fear or hate of another. This is what we all must be most aware of. We see this fallacy in many souls, but I will not let it enter mine. In the words of your Matthew, I shall love my neighbor. And in that, I consider you and your nation one of my many neighbors. Daniel, I hope you don't roll your eyes at these claims. I'm aware that overly nice statements can garner a crowd of eye rolls. Do not let the simplicity of my statement detract from its significance. There is already a great deal of distance between us. Let us not add others' fear to it. I have started learning how to drive. Do you have a car? Where have you driven? Your neighbor, Satyajit.
Satyajit, thank you for your consistent letters. I value them more than you know. Unfortunately, I do not feel well, and that's why it has taken me so long to reply. Satyajit, this may be a short letter for that reason. It feels like months since the clouds have lifted. I find myself getting frustrated at the littlest things. I need to get away. I need to breathe. None of this is your doing. Best of wishes with driving. Regards, Daniel.
Daniel, I am saddened by your last letter. I wish I could be there to support you in any way I can. Please do not let the clouds consume you, as dark as they may be. It is through the clouds that we see light. I want this letter to assist you. Although my thoughts are still captivated by your last letter, I will try to focus on providing you a distraction. My father went away for a month to Delhi. I have never been. He brought back a book about the Red Fort there. I am reading it thoroughly. It has such a history. It was commissioned in 1639 by the 5th Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan. It has seen Mughal, British and now Indian rule throughout its perilous existence. Yet, in all this time, it has become a symbol of modern India. Although its origins are found in a distant empire that maintained a different set of spiritual beliefs than mine, I have no reservations in finding a part of my lineage in it. I am proud of its existence and sympathize with those who graced it. I hope to visit it at some point. I told my father your story with the rabbit. He enjoyed it. He laughs at how you managed to bring matches, water, a knife, but forgot the most important thing: food. He has been to America once. He went to New York City. Is that near you? I've seen pictures of New York. Is that anything like Damascus? He told me that in America there is a place for everything. If you want something, with enough time or money, you can get it. If that's true, it could be overwhelming. I'm sure he was exaggerating a bit. He tends to do that. May the clouds lift. Satyajit. Daniel, it has been too long since I have heard from you. I am concerned, genuinely. I hope it's just that my last letter was lost somewhere along its way to you. As much as I want to believe that, I doubt it. I'm more likely to believe you are still struggling. Could you tell me what happened? Is there anything I can do? I feel that I may be unable to help you. I received my license. I've gained my confidence on the road. The biggest hurdle was driving through the confluence of vehicles that meet on the main road I told you about. Prior to driving, I felt as if all rules dissipated during whatever encounter I had with it. Honking was never ending, and an argument between 3 or more people was guaranteed. But after learning how to drive, I realized if you are patient and a good driver, you should be able to drive right through, unharmed, unbothered. So that is what I do now. I will be driving to the Valley of Flowers tomorrow. I will stay in Rishikesh for a night before conquering the Himalayas. I've studied several maps. I'm slightly intimidated by the mountains. I haven't seen them before, and the path seems winding. I remember as a kid, I told my mom I would move mountains. Daniel, I'm not sure when I will come back to Ladwa. It may be a while before I read your response, if you do respond. Know that I have not forgotten you. It is said that a flower blooms for every soul. I will look for you there. To your health, Satyajit.
Dear Satyajit, I'm sorry for my absence and not responding sooner. I've received both of your letters. I really wasn't in a good place mentally. I'm not sure what provoked it. I'm consumed by so much information, so many perspectives, and so many thoughts that I become paralyzed. We place such a premium on momentary updates that we lose sight of what's in front of us. A ceaseless quest for progress and supposed innovation. The ironies that I once identified in religion, I now see in our technological pursuits. I think it's this that paralyzes me. I had been raised, progress is good, and I still do believe this to this day. But it's as though progress has been twisted and bent to the benefit of those in a position to use it. It is not for all. At least, it's not for me. I sit on the sidelines, deep in the woods of Virginia. I would for years cheer on the ingenuity of my nation. I sat in awe of our greatness, much like how you must have felt reading about the Red Fort. It's hard not to take pride in your country. As I encourage this nation, like I do the hikers, I started to think of my contribution to it. Or anyone's, for that matter. I have a lot of heart. And a lot to give. But there isn't anyone here to receive it. I'm rendered as nothing more than my demographic. I considered leaving Damascus. There's no work for me here, but I physically cannot. I've never owned a credit card. I don't have a car. I've got $93.72 to my name. I've been trying to save for my escape, but that only works if you can get a job. It's not that I feel stuck. It's that I am. There's no one I can turn to for help. My father provides me with a roof, But he cannot offer much more beyond that. That's an awful statement. That should be all I need from him. But this is where my mind is gone. I flirted with trying to hitchhike out of here. But then where would I go? I doubt progress for its own sake. I doubt progress for the sake of more money. If that was the ultimate motivator, then all of our jobs here would be given away to those who don't lose motivation and aren't bound by our minimum wage. That's fine. Streamline, for the sake of progress. I need help. But a handout or a hand up is shunned like the plague. Darwin would have killed me long ago. Sorry for that excursion. I had to get it out. I would be lying if I said I'm fine now. But whoever is, hearing that you got your license helps, and so too do your letters. Satyajit, this correspondence has meant a great deal to me. I told my dad about your trip to the Valley of Flowers, and he asked, why does he have to go to a valley to see flowers? Well, they're all around. Now, I tried explaining that they're a part of the Himalayas and a national park, which he then kind of understood. I also told him about Hinduism and the Mahabharata, even though I haven't read it yet. I would like to come visit you. Maybe some time away from here would do me some good. I will start saving. I read a little bit about the Red Fort after you had mentioned it. There's an inscription on one of the walls by an old Persian poet that reads, "If there be paradise on earth, it is this, it is this, it is this. Eternally grateful, Daniel."